The self-discovery race, but the discovery of self is but a show away. With over 1,800 shows and growing, we bring you those liberating stories that help you on your own life's journey from every single topic you can think of. The only common denominator is authenticity and living in your meaningful purpose. Come and read our new ebook, plus see our discovery store and what wonderful tools we have for you. Do enjoy our shows and don't forget to share.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living. I am your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest, repeat offender, is Christina Hill and Athela. Today we're talking about Ascension and the continuity of life. What does that mean? Well, do you think that when we die, we just disappear? There's nothing more of us? Our bodies are just our vessels. They carry this beautiful divine energy from one life to another. Where do we come from? But the universal energy. How are we made up? So many questions here to ask. We are hearing in the news right now of so many deaths. Mother Earth is pissed. This is her retaliation. It's also part of the prophecy, if you listen to the show, of what was predicted, the shake-up, earth shaking up, vibration shaking up, shifting our whole dimensional energy into a more conscious awakening of love and kindness and caring and harmony, because we are in such a disruptive energy at the present moment. So the earth is just reacting to that disruption. It's a cleansing, it's a redirecting, it's a re-energizing of the humanity, which we do need. But in this, of course, there has been a lot of deaths, and there will be a lot more deaths to come. Should we be afraid of death? No, I don't believe so. Death is just a transition into another life or into another presence. These bodies are our vessels. The energy that is within us has been repeated many, many a time. So how do we ascend in harmony, in peace? Where does that energy go? Why do we come back? Do we have a choice of how we come back? How do we communicate with those that have passed away? How do we prepare for death if we have that luxury to do so? So many questions here, right? Well, Christina and Athela are going to be answering those today as we take this wonderful discussion into understanding what Ascension is. She says, you are here and now. You are awareness, energy, consciousness. You are true self. You are I am. Knowing the truth and living the truth creates an awakeness. It creates and attracts serenity in your inner world. Keeping the light and rooting your feltness or openness with divine awareness means that every second of your life can be peaceful, including when you exit your body to lift off and upwards into the non-physical. Transitioning from your physical body vehicle into source energy is a natural process. It is built by nature to set you up for the journey. While there are certain struggles that can help you lift off smoothly in grace, let us condition, re-educate our minds, bodies. That transition is normal. It can be fun and it can be a great adventure. There's much more to read here from her, and I invite you to come and read it. Plus, I invite you to listen to all the other shows that Christina and Athela has done with us. You will truly be illuminated at the end of it. So, Christina, welcome back to the show, my love.
Sarah, thank you. And I think we have really touched a nerve, a topic that, let's face it, a lot of us, I would say I'd be willing to bet that at least 98% of the population feel some kind of fear or anticipatory anxiety towards this idea, this notion of death. At some point in our lives, there's the majority of us have these moments where we see this unknown, and then we kind of constrict. And there's this fear that rises up, right? There's a fear that comes into our awareness. And so we've really touched a nerve today, I think, just by even opening up, just your beautiful introduction, just right there, sort of touches that nerve. So as audience members, you go into this, listening to this show, just, I think, play around and be aware of what body sensations are lighting up as to this discussion, and what it means for you, and how that presents itself in the mind-body, because we are talking about something that, first of all, most of us have not experienced, and we're talking about something that is big unknown. So we're touching what is not known. How precious that is, and I think it deserves space, a lot of spaciousness and love. And so I'm just asking everyone to really rekindle yourselves, take a few moments as you grab your tea, as you sit back, you listen to this show. It's like, how can we bring the most gentleness to this topic when there has already been plenty done by media, by previous generations, the people that we have grown up with, and our experiences that we have seen with our eyes about this topic, about transition. And I should say, Athela has taught me so much about this this idea of transition and the concept of it. And so I like to use the word transition. You'll find that in any of my talks, retreats with Athela, she always uses this word, transition, and in lieu of saying death and dying, simply because, I'll tell you why, humans, we have this fixed mark on certain concepts. It's like a buzzword, really, that starts the body in a certain way. Certain buttons get ignited when we use certain words, and death happens to be one of them. So there's a new language that's emerging as we ascend as a race, and this new language must encompass and embrace new language that is more true and that is more vivid and loving, really. Yeah. So light-filled words. Here we go. And I'd like to impress upon everyone listening to this that it is possible to think of this as a transition, like you're exiting your car, you're getting out of your vehicle, and that you're lifting off. So the graph that you'll read, it says you can see yourself like a kid in a bouncy house. You know, you're bouncing up and down, it's bouncy, and you're lifting up, and also like, you know, just like a rocket going up in the sky, that it's really lightweight, and that you can see yourself as the shell, and that you are actually leaving the shell behind to go upward. So I invite everyone to kind of, you know, play around with the imagery there and how it works for you, and maybe adopt some light-filled words to represent this precious moment that which we will all, of course, encounter, and to maybe decide. You can decide today, tying up these old beliefs, these false pictures, you know, these false words that suggest at any point that we are somehow going into oblivion and that we will stop being, you know, but rather to embrace what is true. And I'll tell you, the truth of the matter, and we've heard it throughout the ages, no matter which religion we're talking about, people know this, we know it on a soul level, is that we continue, we are. We will always continue to be, and that's the truth. So let's just use that springboard, I think, to begin this beautiful conversation. And thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. And I'm sorry for that long-winded answer. But no,
it sparked a few things. You know, it's the evolution of life isn't just in life; it's in the lifetimes that we have. We evolve every lifetime because we have the memories and the learnings and the teaching of past life to guide us forward. And I always say that if we want to our next life to be the greatest that it can be, we need to discover that greatness in this life. Otherwise, if we're going to go into our next life with any discord or angst, we're removing that on that soul of the next life. Let's actually talk to some of those beliefs that you were mentioning, and let's put them out there. People are afraid of dying, not ascending, dying. We're also afraid of something that we are all going to have to do. I think it's because, A, people don't want to go before their time. They're worried about leaving people behind. Unfinished business. Please let me finish my business before I go. The other thing, of course, is dying. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that at all. So, let's just address those kind of beliefs and how we can re-dialogue around them, how we can reverberate them in a way that, I understand, though. I understand, I've got things I want to do. I want to live long enough to get them done in this lifetime. So when I come back to the next lifetime, I've evolved even much to go even higher in the work that I do. But how do we actually speak to people that have been given that what the sentence pitch, which is an exit date, into resolving that journey with light and love and letting go of here? Because I think it's a true gift if you're given a time, because you can conclude things. But how do we reverberate it? Let's just look at the word death sentence. You talk to ascension instead of death sentence, or death itself. Can we call it passing over or going over? Can we reverberate it in a different way that is just that transitioning?
My sources, my CEO, my cheerleader, Athela, I met her in 2015, showed me quite a few things. And as a child, of course, I grew up with many psychic gifts that I did not know were psychic gifts. And what I was seeing was in fact people lifting off, and here and there and everywhere, like in a Dr. Seuss book. I would see these things and I thought, everybody else surely can see this, but what is it? It's a human being in their heavy laden shell, and they're laying there, and this other part of them, this light body, is coming out. And in this moment, it's like, yes. Mm-hmm. And there are no words for that. And I also noticed in both in my childhood and after meeting Athela, I was shown that this moment of liftoff it's not only happening, because it is happening, but it's also peace. It's the best word I can find, in all of our beautiful vocabulary is peace. And so it's really important that the feeling that we get, I'm really concerned with that, the feelings that we get when we are looking at our own passing over transition, are that we are headed upwards into peace. And those are the feelings in the mind body that need to be cultivated. How do we reorganize our mind body so that we actually feel that way? I believe, as you had said, Sarah, that we have so many different sources. We have so many different programs that have been come through in our consciousness that get us into this feeling of fear. And how do we retrain ourselves to feel that we are lifting off into peace? And I think then the language becomes more secondary. I think the primary is the feeling sensation.
A phrase that wants to come to mind is waiting to exhale.
Oh, yes.
The deep breath. And there's something very tranquil in that last breath,
Oh. Let's just sustain that. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, when you just said that, Sarah, there is an echo in the ether. Mm. It's like, truly, here's another truth. Because we really need to stick to truth when we're talking about a discussion like this, on this topic. Truth is that we don't know where our next breath is coming from.
Exactly.
So as we wave and we come to our breath, we're letting go. We just simply surrender and trust in every single second that oxygen then is coming back to us, that we are taking our next breath. Buddhists practice this, though, where they ride the last exhale, not knowing about the inhale, but that they just stay so present.
Yeah.
So if we can train ourselves, training step number 1 is back to our breath and to really be present with now, getting right back into now, riding that wave of the exhale and letting go. So in our meditations, and everyone who's not meditating daily, please take up practice of doing this daily, where you're actually with your breath, letting that exhale be, and it's a centering. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's the most truth and light that you can bring into your life. So then thoughts are out of the equation.
Yeah.
So you're not thinking at that point. You are simply one with the breath. That is the way to exit the body. I mean, that is absolutely, your body is designed for that. Your spirit is, it's like in the paragraph I shared with, this was Athela channeling through me through this paragraph here that I wrote, this excerpt, is that we are actually provided with the body vehicle that is designed to come in the physical and then to leave the physical. So your body is set up to just simply breathe and then take that last breath and then ride out the exhale and lift off. Mm-hmm. It's just that we don't practice this every day. That's the thing, is that we don't engage deliberately with this practice. There are Buddhists in monasteries that practice the art of dying, as they call it, the movement of transitioning with their breath. And there's not a lot of there's no thought activity, there's no problem going on, there's no resistance in the head. Because they've gotten to a point where they can be very present with the breath. And you don't have to live in a monastery to get to that point. We can just simply decide that every day I'm going to honor myself, my breath. I'm going to honor who I truly am, the I am, with a meditation, and be very singular and be very present with our breath. I sincerely believe, and it's been through my experiences through childhood, help with the transition, and my experiences with Athela, that I've seen the greatest success in exiting the body, the most peace, the most fun, is through this practice of coming back to breath and the letting go.
Yeah. You know, talking about your monks and people that get into that kind of meditation, it's actually taking a peek of where you'll go. You can kind of transcend up into up into the ether, up into the universe, and you can get a feeling. People say to me, well, can you describe to me how you feel when you're in your peace? And I say, I'm in a void of everything and nothing. And
yes,
it is so embracing this everything and this nothing that I am completely and utterly in knowingness and not knowing anything, that it is so completely tranquil. And I think when you get into those meditations where you can actually trust that breath, you can transcend up into that feeling, and it gives you a kind of a precursor of where you're going, because we're not all completely reborn straight away. We may have some things we have to do, soul school or whatever else, or we can actually choose how and whom, what we're coming back as, if we are coming back, or if we're transcending up to a higher plane. But it's, if we trust that feeling, where we're in everything and nothing all at the same time, we kind of get an understanding of how the energy works, and we're less afraid of death. I've never been afraid of death, and I've had people come to me when they've lost people who are dying, because I can speak to that transition in a way that they feel good. Plus, I worked with an awful lot of people who have just crossed over and are confused where they are and need that help and that comfort to help them, open the right door to go through.
Yes.
And it's, as I said, I've been surrounded by a lot of death and family members, etc. And it's always that sometimes when you see people in such suffering and you know there's no way out of it, I risk them that transcendence. So, because why put them through that extreme suffering when they transcend and re-energize and regroup and come back, in a form where they are better prepared to live here. Right? So it's, oh, you wish somebody dead? No, that is not what I wish them to transcend their energy, because the torture that their body is going through, or their mind is putting their soul through, is something that we would not wish on any living being. So why would we, condone it for a being or an animal?
Oh, Sarah, you and I share so many similar situations and circumstances where we've been privy to suffering at this critical time. And I have to agree, the mind-body suffering, first of all, that's an interpretation, not a fact.
Right.
Suffering is an interpretation, not a fact. That's a great affirmation if you're suffering, and there's a lot of that. But we can transcend, and we can transition, as I am told, we can transition when we choose to.
Yeah.
We got to get to a point, though, where our consciousness will allow us to feel that way.
Right. Well, the third dimension is flight or fight, right? And it's, I've got to live at all costs, and fists and everything's clenched, and everything is like this, and I've got to live, not living. Breathe. Feel the energy run through your body. Feel the reason for your being, why you're here. Embrace the journey of why you're here. That's when you actually understand what life is about. There are so many people that are in a living death because they haven't tapped into life. They haven't tapped into the energy of life. And it isn't about defending your life at all costs. It's about living your life.
Yes.
Which is a hard one for people to follow. You telling me that I shouldn't defend my life? It's that you have to defend your life in a way that you are truly and utterly living it, not in fear of losing it.
And let's look at, and I'm sorry, Sarah, my connection is everything. Are you hearing me clearly?
Perfectly.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, beautiful. So by the way, as we go into these high-flying topics, there's a lot of energy. I just want to have everyone do, and I'm doing it myself right now, do a little check-in. How is the body feeling right now? Now that we're getting into it, because that's where the truth is,
right? Has this
You're
upset
gonna,
you? Clenched,
Yes.
Sweating on the brow. Are you thinking that Dr. Death is knocking on the door? No, it's not the case.
Yeah,
That's fear. That is fear, isn't it?
Right. And so that will give you a good gauge as to, we take inventory of everything else. We look at our finances, we take inventory of our health. We look at our life situation, we take inventory of what's in our pantry, and then we go shopping. We need to take inventory, folks, about how we feel about exiting our body, about the transition. And if there is fear and tightness, constriction, that's okay. That's fine. Let's just invite that. Bring that up and say, okay, and take out a piece of paper, write down your body sensations, any images, okay? It's going to come up. So let's deal with it now. I have a good friend, so it's Carly, who says, you need to die before you die. Mm-hmm. So let's start now. Wouldn't today be a good time for you to start writing down any of these patterns, any of these old images, any fears? Write them down, and then if you need to, put it in a drawer somewhere. Shut the drawer, walk away from it, but just know that you have taken inventory of something that needs to be dealt with. And because there is no fear of death, that only exists in the head, and that's something that we get. It gets programmed in as we're kids, as we grow up, and as we watch movies and all this other stuff. It gets programmed in the body. And the beautiful thing here is that those programs can be changed. Yeah. And there are so many tools that work, and they work fast, and you can literally change the blueprint and go into it as you would a child entering into, a child going into a bouncy house, and all this fun where you can bounce around and you feel lightweight And there is no heaviness anymore. There's just taking your shoes off. You know, when you go in the bouncy house, you take your shoes and you're just boing around. And there's plenty of room and space, and it's fun. And gosh, that's a great experience. That's a great image. You can adopt that image in your mind body as it was transitioning. But we don't have education on this. I mean, we just get to a point where we see the end, and then we think whatever it is that is coming, you know, is associated with those old beliefs. And somehow a lot of people have got it in their heads that they have to transition through suffering. Like, yes. That association is very, that's just widespread. It's like one of the biggest lies, I think, that exists on the planet, is that through the dying process, one must suffer. It must be this traumatic event that, you know, that everyone must suffer, and that the loved ones around you are suffering as well, and all these things. So we can, I guess what I'm trying to say in synopsis is that we can deliberately change all of that. And you can start as an individual and then go and teach the transitioning process to your family, to your friends. You go out and you live it, you know, and talk about it openly, and start, you know, the planet starts healing that way. Start to have a new relationship with transitioning. And I agree with you, Sarah. I'll say something else. What you said in the beginning about how we can get a taste of what that is. Yeah. It's so untouchable with words. Yeah. It's a feeling that we can taste when we go into these higher elevation meditation experiences. So utterly divine, and you have to sit to understand it, because there is no translation for it. But, you know, let's go back to another thing here. People are still preconceived that it's heaven or hell. You know, my perspective on this has always been, if you are unhappy, if you are in turmoil, if you're in pain, you're already in hell. And the heaven is to be found within your life, in your existence here on this planet, in this vessel. Mm-hmm. You know, I've had people say to me, you know, when I die, I'll go to heaven and I won't feel pain anymore. I won't have suffering anymore. Do you think, quote, heaven will let you in angst with all that discord? You would bring disruption. So there is kind of soul school for people who transcend, that aren't ready yet to let go of things that they're upset about. And you cannot go into this one or transcend, let's say, up to a higher level until you have reached that purity of love. And that love has no angst. It has no angst, has no regrets. There is nothing to forgive. It is purely love. That is when you can truly transcend. But you don't just do it because you die. There's still work to do, right? You know, that's why you come back over and over again to do this work. So you choose right now, heaven or hell, in your existence, right this very minute. And if you're living in fear, in anger, in pain, in discord, you are in hell. What are you going to do to get out of it? How are you going to raise your vibration right now to embrace that beautiful, peaceful, loving heart that is heaven? Mm-hmm. That is the death you're talking about. That is the death that you need to have. Because when you do transcend the beauty of love into that beautiful energy, you have to have a death of all that worries you, all that angsts you. Because you cannot live an existence of love with that. So, yes, we have to have a passing. It's a transition into life within this body before we even transcend out of the body. Beautiful. I always allow for the spacious silence because these things that we're talking about, we're talking at an intellectual level right now, but you can also feel it. This is true. These are the truisms And the only thing that needs to be done, it doesn't matter where you have come from,
No.
or what you have done, or
How
what
rich
kind
you
of...
are, or how poor you are, what color you are, what sex you are. It doesn't matter.
None of that stuff matters.
No.
And you can just, as Sarah has said, increase your vibration now.
Yes.
And then 5 minutes from now, if you see you've taken a turn, it's gone down, increase your vibration again. And there are so many ways to do this. One technique that Athela teaches first and foremost for myself and for others is this simple breath meditation where you just come back to yourself, come back to the breath.
Do it now?
Let us do it now. There is no time but now.
Right, exactly. Take us.
I am giving you all a high five. Please observe animals. Animal sits. Animal perceives. It breathes. Animal is more tied to universal consciousness. When you come away from the story of fear, you are able to feel what is, and that is light. No matter where you are, your body vessel is hearing this through the ears. You can capture essence, presence through the breath. I love you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Christina. I want to talk about who Athela is. She comes to you in the name of Athela as a image of a woman. But what she really is a divine entity of light, accumulation of lives that have been before that has decided not to transcend higher but to step up and help humanity on its journey. Is that the way you would put it?
Blissful words. I actually stumble over the words, and then I fumble, and then Athela corrects me. But what you have just said really, it outlines what the entity of Athela is. This sort of outlining with words is important because I believe when people come in contact with...
So the recorder just stopped there right now, and very often what happens when there is a surge of energy, our internet cannot keep up. And you were saying about the way I described it, because as human beings, we do need a description to understand, don't we?
Yes.
But the simpler the description, as you said, outlined, we can color in whatever color we see, but that outline just gives a little comprehension for us to understand the color we're seeing.
Yes. So it is with that I invite everyone to take your lid off of your imagination for a while and let yourself fly free with the idea that it's incomprehensible to describe a interdimensional being, and Athela is a being that is here for one reason, and that reason is healing.
Yeah.
So whatever form or shape that takes, whether it takes you to a bookstore or clients will come for a retreat, they change their lives, they change their careers, they become quote unquote enlightened and carry that on into their organizations, going on to donate money or decide where they're going to live, or just to find their soulmate. Really, it really doesn't matter what image you give to Athela, and she's given me permission to say that, but that she prefers to be seen as an angel because that's easier.
Yes.
That's easier for humans to digest.
It's also more comforting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Yes. Yes, and I believe we did a show a while back, and it touched on this a bit about who is this entity, who is this being, and how do you know who you're talking to?
Right.
Well, we could have a whole show on this, and I'm actually working on an autobiography, but I can tell people a little bit about my life prior to meeting this beautiful angel we call Athela, and tying in with her energy, and then letting her lift us up in our organization to where now we help people around the world. I could tell people about the world I was living in before that, and gosh, that's my one proof. If I ever needed a proof, I could say I had a total, complete transformation of my life after meeting Athela, all for the good and all for the betterment of everyone that I come into contact with now. So that's really, for me, the answer that I give to people when they say, who is this Athela? Well, she is a dimensional being, yes, but she's also here for you.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily, like electricity, we don't necessarily know how it works, but we know that it works.
Yep.
And we can do the outlining, as Sarah suggested. That's beautiful. Fill it in, color it in, take from it, and use it to raise your vibration. And that's really where the healing begins. And then also I invite people to explore more about Athela and go to our website at athela.org. And in any capacity, whether it's a video, we have lots of free meditations, some of her writings, but to really use it as a daily part of life to just remind you that we are light beings, and that this idea here of dying, death, and these other things, that we actually can change that, and we can see it as the transition to where we come from, who we are, and that it's pure source energy, and that we have choices, we have options at that point.
I mean, Athela is pure source energy who has directed her energy towards you to enhance you to do the work you need to do here on the planet in raising people's vibration and ascending into their own truth.
Yes.
Everybody has angels around them. It's just a question of, are you opening up your channel? And we've done a show on channeling, and it, opening up. And it's like the reason why churches are not being followed as much, because it used to be you had to go to church and go through the priest to attach to God, to connect to God. And now we're actually understanding it's a direct line.
Yes.
To source, to God, to whatever you wish to believe in. It's a direct source to that. That is your knowingness. That is your breath. That is your truth. That is your love. And when you step into that light, you are channeling, and then the information that you get is going to be that divine truth of knowingness. And we have got to, as you said, and Athela says, and we all say, I say get out of head, and you say, and Athela says, get out of thought. And, I've said it time and time again, I'm going to say it again. When you listen through your soul, through the divine intellect, and it resonates with your heart and truth, it goes to your spirit into action, your mind will know what it needs to know at the time it needs to know it. That is the important thing, is trusting that our soul, heart, and spirit's intellect, the divine knowledge, will direct our thoughts to what needs to be done in that moment. If we stay in our thoughts, we're on a treadmill, constantly asking why, creating more delusionment and confusion, and because we have not allowed the heart, soul, and spirit to be a part of the conversation.
Yes, yes. And just as a little tag onto that, Sarah, how do we get ourselves into the habit of inviting spirit into our everyday world? I believe the first step is through meditation. I believe that a daily meditation practice, it needs to be included. It must be a must-have for your day, because then you're not allowing the mind to get on that treadmill. You're getting in the habit of stepping away from thought altogether. We're not saying thought is bad.
No.
Of course, thought is very productive.
Not thought first.
Yes, that's right.
Open your channels.
That's right. Open it up, because when you're asking questions like, well, my channels feel closed, I can't really receive, I don't know where, there's no mental clarity, that is a clear signal that you need to come away from mind. Yes. And sit for a while and be with spirit, and let those channels open up so that you can be directed. And it's just as simple as that. There's really no other magic formula. That's just a daily habit. And if you continue every day to do that, it will be like brushing your teeth, like driving your car. It will just seem bizarre to live any other way.
Yep.
And then you'll find that life moves smoother. You'll have less dipping down, going up, dipping down, going up. It'll be a question of, I'm going to return to essence, or however you want to call it. I'm going to return to light. I'm going to have a conversation with my guides. I call it a meeting with the guides. I mean, I'm talking with Othello all the time. So everyone can do this. Doesn't matter where you're at in your life journey. You could be anywhere. You could be in the grocery store. It's okay to step away from thoughts and go into spirit realm, into that lightness, and then open up those channels. And I invite everyone, again, going back to our topic, do that as it relates to transition, and let the truths come through pure consciousness, so that it drowns away all those old fears. You'll find that when you're in these states, in these higher dimensional places in meditation, that you're actually able to feel truth. Mm-hmm. And then the shadow and the fear, and as Othello called it, the darkness, that stuff doesn't even exist. It's like the truth and the light are there for the taking. And it's just that our minds get in the way. We get obscured. It gets all fumbled up in there with the thoughts and the old conditioning. So as it relates to transitioning, if you're listening to this, for example, and you have that sensation that it is soon time for you to transition, I have one or two clients right now currently who are there. And what we do is we come into pure consciousness together. So find a buddying partner, because it really works well when you have community, at least one other person or an animal. And you come into pure conscious state where you're highly alert, you're awake, but you're not thinking. You're breathing, and you're in that pure consciousness state. And linger there. And be there for yourself for as often as you can, so that you can really feel the difference between the I am and the thinker.
Right.
And so that's something important I wanted to share with everyone as we touch on this beautiful topic of transitioning.
It's learning to recognize when that transition is really there for you, because you with your meditation, with your breath, you've visited it, you've been at the door, and you're less fearful when that door finally comes for you. You know, okay, now it's time for me to go through that door, and it isn't hitting you right on the head. And you know, for people who know they're going, as I say, it's a gift because they can really sort things out before they go and get ready for it. And a lot of people, you know, it comes for them, you know, without any preparation. So in other words, if we are willing to ride this beautiful wave, every aspect of our lives, we're always prepared for no matter what, whether it comes suddenly or whether we've been given time to prepare for it. If we live in that state of being, of going to the door, trusting that space of breath, we'll learn that's what that transition is. And when our time does come, it doesn't shock us so much. A lot of the people I've helped that have passed over, passed over so quickly that they didn't realize they're actually dead. And
yes.
And that's the thing. Yeah, you crossed over. It's now helping them take that breath. You're no longer in the body. This is where your spirit moves forward. If they prepare for that beforehand, it isn't such a shock. Another thing I want to hit on that you talked about earlier is we've got to pay attention to the signs in life. One of the person I interviewed who wrote the list, shouted out loud, is that if you're needing help with somebody or help with something in your life, don't be afraid to ask for it in whatever medium, social medium, your friends or whatever. People, spirit very often uses people to help you with what you need. And if they don't know what you need, if you have not shouted it out loud, how do they know how to help you? And it's also paying attention to those signs. You could be in a grocery store and you could turn around and start a conversation with someone in line, and that profoundness of the statement that they make at that moment could be the information you're needing right now. And we've got to take the blinkers off, we've got to take the earmuffs off, on the bloody headphones off, get out of your texting and tap into the sensory of life, because it's constantly guiding and speaking to us.
Yes. Yes. There are no limits in the eyes of universe. That's another truth.
Yeah.
So as we are limitless, then as you're going out in your world, and I agree with you, Sarah, so much so that I want to go ahead and say also that our guides, or you can call them angels or energy beings, light beings, that we have around us, surrounding us at all times. You have an army packed behind you, you really do. Every single human does. That they come to us and present themselves through other people, through other animals, through nature, through relationships, and through literally signs. And so if you're thinking, is this a sign? Could this be a sign? Then I think it's a good time to check in, get quiet, become still, and then ask that and let yourself be guided. So any problem, like Othello says, any problem you've got, the solution is already here. It's literally waiting for you to raise your frequency or vibration to it. And relate that, again, take that to the topic of transition. And if you're having some of these stumbling blocks, some of these fears, as you've listened to this little show here, that we've talked a bit about this and we've gone into it, any of those fears or old programming that comes up, and go out and reach out for help to resolve and to paint a new picture for yourself, so that you're really at peace with this. We're in the current of life, right? So at that point, so that it's not jarring, so that it's not shocking, you have serenity with it. We have serenity with yourself. Yeah. And there's so many different techniques. If you come to Othello.org, that's one way. There's also EFT. There's affirmation writing, as you have seen on the excerpt here. It's a great start. Is just to write out what do I wish to feel about this topic, about transitioning? And just simply start to play with these affirmations. Start to say the new information to yourself. Write it out. And just realize that we are divine light beings. So the vibration that we're in, that's what we're going to experience in our world, of course. We all know that. Put yourself in the vibration of what it is you truly want, and write it out, and start with affirmations. I think that is a fantastic way to begin your journey with a new relationship as it relates to transitioning.
It's communicating with self, isn't it? It's seeing what's inside of you by allowing it to come out of you. I'm actually going to hit on another topic right now, which is that of suicide. Suicide, obviously, from a religious aspect, you're going to go to hell. It's a coward's way out. It's this and that. And sometimes, we're given challenges and pain and things like this to transcend through, to fight through and to become that beautiful butterfly that we're meant to be. And, as anybody who's given birth, we know 9 months of pregnancy and labor is, really, really painful. But what you get at the end of it, you forget all pain. And going through a certain amount of pain in life and giving birth to yourself as this beautiful new butterfly in an embracement of love and truth and divine energy, it's all worth it completely. But for some people, the pain is too much, the suffering is too much, they cannot change that channel. And for some people, it's, well, I'm here, I've done what I've had to do in this life, I've come and felt what I had to feel in this life, I no longer need to be here. So I think that sometimes we need to actually look at, why did a person take their life? Is it that they just recognize it's their time to go? Or, is it because there was no one around there to help them through that pain? But we can't judge, can we? Because, ultimately they're not going to be judged for passing over.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. And in fact, I sort of see, both you and I have a level of expertise, Sarah, that is quite rarely, and frankly, it's rarely recognized in this physical world, but a level of expertise working with the non-physical and those beings that have ejected from the body of their own accord. So again, I know I'm big on wording, but we're moving into a new realm with ascended language. And so ejecting from the body before the body is ready, or before it is time to naturally do that. When that happens, I feel like you have worked with those individuals, those beings on the other side, as well as myself. I've seen that many, many times where it's kind of a popping out and it's like a surprise, and then there's so much grief at that point.
Yeah.
Or just confusion and like, oh, I'd rather go back. Oh, can I have the body back? And then kind of like this period of time where it's like this, murky, situation. And then there's some education for that being. And then, light, some guidance and light. So there is absolutely no need for judgment. There is no judgment. So when we drop out of the story, then we see, and it's just pure energy. But we cannot judge these individuals, and there is no judgment whatsoever. And I encourage anyone who's had someone close to them who's exited in this way to just practice the forgiveness of self, practice the forgiveness of that person, and to, as often as possible, come out of the story and relinquish the judgments. That is the best way to help that being. That's really, that's all that can be said with that. And that being will find its way in its own consciousness. And those situations, they do happen.
It's more the people they leave behind, isn't it? It's like, oh, I should have done more. Why didn't I see the signs? Why did they leave us? And, the anger and everything else. And we've got to understand we're not in that person's body. I know through working with people, there are a lot of people that are in bodies that are completely and utterly contrast to who they are as a being, and the conflict is just too much for them to bear. And any form of passing over is always the hardest on people that are left behind. The people who've passed over, they're fine. The amount of messages I've had from people who've passed over for their loved ones, I'm all right, I am perfectly safe, I am perfectly happy, I worry about you, to their loved ones. And it's don't cry for the person that's crossed over. What you're crying for is the fact you've been left behind. Recognize that. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel that loss. But understand it's the body that's gone. Their spirit and their energy is still with you as long as you encompass it and allow it to be.
That's right. And the best way to do that, I think, is I feel this very strongly, the suffering cycle that all of us have been there. If you've lost someone in your life, either through suicide or through natural process, you know this, the suffering cycle. As soon as you are able to come out of that and become present, then you're able to open up and you are able to commune and be with that being and understand what's really true. I mean, we're all energy, and of course energy is never destroyed, it's never created, it's just ongoing. So I like to think of this, I've shared this analogy with you before, Sarah, is like the ice cube, right? You have the ice cube in your hand. Practice this, be like a child again. Let's go through a little practice here. Just take a piece of ice and put it in your hand. Understand that it's water. It's a solid formation. It's going to start melting. It melts, turns into liquid, and then drips off of your hand. This is a wonderful practice for understanding that, first of all, we're all made up of water too. Yeah. So that's another great thing.
We're all going to melt at some point or other.
Yes, we're all going to melt. And so as you go into, and I kind of prescribe this as people are going through the process of helping a being that they've known in their life to cross over, or helping themselves with their own healing for a loss, is to take that ice cube and do this exercise and realize that there is no end, and that water is just fine. Water is fine and dandy, and it's our perceptions that need to change. It's the suffering story that we need to come out of. And this practice is something very visceral, very physical, holding that ice cube, watching as it turns to liquid, dripping off of your hand, and realizing that the water has just changed. So transition is change. I think when we use words that trigger our mind bodies, and everyone has different words that are going to trigger them, but these words, they trigger us into believing that we could actually stop existing, or that our dear beloved one is gone. Yeah. And so these ideas, I also encourage people to quit watching images, reading news, and I mean things that feed these fears, things that feed this falseness, really, and that you start filling your eyeballs with light, that you start seeing images of truth. And looking at nature is a great way to do this, so that we see the cycle. Yeah. And the never-ending cycle of energy. Or if you want to, if you're feeling adventurous, you can read about quantum physics. You can go online, do a little research, and you'll see that there's proof.
We've got stacks of shows here on the quantum energy and how it works. And from a scientist point of view, or people that came from science and are now using it, and it's becoming more mainstream. It's becoming more understandable. And you talk about the cycle of life. That is the way we are made. It's the cycle of life. We're here to learn. We're here to love. We're here to transcend and take what we've learned on, to the next realm. And that is consequently it. And I always say, be emotionally tuned in, but don't be emotional, because when you become emotional, you give into the drama, and the drama becomes a trauma, and you get stuck in that loop, which now you're in a constant pain. And yes, you've lost someone. Yes, I know it's painful. Been there, done that. A loss of a child, I understand. I've know a number of people have lost their children, and it's a different type of pain, one I pray I never have to go through. But at the same time, for those that have embraced their child's signature of energy and brought it with them, they can go through this so much easier and learn to be guided by the light of that child, and don't give in to the sorrow of that child. So it does come to that choice. I was talking with someone the other day whose son went for a jog on Christmas Day and dropped dead. Nobody knew he had a heart problem. And he transcended in shock. That was one of those people, that no preparation for.
Right.
And of course it's them as parents left behind. And she's saying, but I feel him. And am I going mad? I said, no, you're opening up, you're channeling. Do not worry about what anybody else thinks. Purely tap into the love of your child and how he's with you, how you're with him. Let him take you on whatever journey he wishes to take you on. Trust the love, trust the light. Who gives a damn what anybody else's opinion is? This is your relationship with him, as it was from the moment you conceived him or her, from the moment you gave birth to the moment they passed over or transcended. That connection that you have with them never dies. Never.
No, never. How could it?
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And even from a quantum physics, again, just look at the science. It is impossible for that energy to be destroyed or created. It's just ever going, ever on, eons and infinity, beyond our ability to even comprehend. And Sarah, what a beautiful coaching that you gave to this woman. Gosh, I just wish that us as humanity, that we have more of this. I want this for humanity, is that this education of this is real. What is happening to you is real. Take it and fly with it. Follow it. And disregard, you're going to be setting yourself up for some ridicule, obviously, from some people who are not as ascended or who are not in that dimension, in that frequency with you.
Don't take it personally.
But just don't, it's totally about them. It's their content. It's their stuff, not on you. And that you continue on and you foster this relationship, even though it may be a non-physical one, and that is healthy, that is beautiful, and that will take you to so many other things, including your own healing from that inner, that place where that story is held, that suffering story. It provides a way, an avenue for you to move out of sorrow and into light, because that's the way to go, always in the way of light.
You do not need to justify how you feel. It's not for them to understand how you feel. It's for them to respect how you feel and not impose their limitations on you. The whole thing about tapping into this beautiful divine energy, both, we have to understand the energy that we're talking about in Ascension is the same energy as we live in now. It's just a different signature. It's just serving a different purpose. It's without body. When it's in body, it has a different purpose. When it's without body, it has a different purpose. It's all the same energy. When we tap into that, if other people have not yet embraced that journey, that is their journey. Do not let their judgment or misunderstandings, contaminate or misconstrued how you're feeling. Please embrace what you're feeling, own it. No judgment on them because they're not there yet. Right. Do not accept any judgment from them because they're not there yet. And there are so many people who are already ascending in their energy in life that understand. Embrace those people, seek those people, raise your vibration and ask those people to come to you. Then be aware, be open, and you will meet them in the most unusual places, but you will meet them. And then you will realize you are not alone, and there are so many of us out there, and the more there is, the more light and love that's going to go out to the universe and this planet.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And congruency. So you're congruent with mind body says, yes, this is the way. Great, you have found your way. Yep. And then it's time to find others to be at a vibrational match and to begin the community. So if you're in that position, you're developing relationship with a beloved one that has passed, or for anything else that you feel is on your path and you're looking for community, put out that intention. Throw it out there like a boomerang and wait for it to come back. Yeah, exactly.
I want to celebrate other souls like me.
Yay! And you could throw up your hands and literally like clap your hands and feel that confetti.
Yeah.
Because it's coming, and you've set the intention out there. That's just as real as the chair you're sitting in.
Right.
It's even if it's in the non-physical, unmanifested yet, but it comes back into the physical, and you'll have your community to share and to care and to spread that energy. We talk a lot, Sarah, about the healing of the planet. Mm-hmm. It starts with this.
Yes.
It starts with these things.
Our peaceful, harmonic energy is what the healing is. And, there's two things I want to address here. One, when somebody is passing over and you're with them, they're ascending, a simple stroke of the brow and the hair or their arms of, you were loved, you were respected, we'll still be connected. Do not cry, do not go hysterical, don't leave me. Take them through the tranquility by stroking the body, but especially the forehead and the hair is so relaxing that they can trust the feeling that they're feeling that is coming for them, and the transcending them with peace without their body, feeling being pulled. It's really important to how you are around someone transcending. Help them through it with love, kindness, gentility, and celebration. The other thing is when we do hear of so many deaths like we have with the hurricanes, the earthquakes, the floods, the fires, what we can do is send out that loving prayer for their souls to transcend into peace, because they have crossed over. There's nothing we can do about that. We can't save them. That was whatever their time, but we can ask for safe passage for their journey, that they transcend in peace. And never ever underestimate the power of your intent, of your loving energetic intent, because the more of us that do, the more that it is felt, and the more that we heal those people that have crossed over, that have ascended into this beautiful light. They're okay. Let's just help them on their journey.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more with everything you just shared. If you are near someone that is transitioning, or perhaps you're in a situation with a worker for hospice, for example. I've had many experiences with hospice practitioners and their loved ones and family members in between, and what a beautiful position you are in. That is a very sacred, loving place. Or just to be close to someone who is transitioning, and to give that person your presence,
yes,
your full, unpolluted presence, and that just basically means coming to a quiet stillness.
Yep, pure
and
love.
To be pure love, and to be real for that person, to be there for them. Yeah. I love the touch and how beautiful and how motherly and how tender we can be in this precious time, and to maybe save or reserve any of those negative feelings for another time, for not for that time, but for your own inner space, your own inner work, which you can bring to your guides and your meditation and all of that. And then with regard to earth changes and the shaking and the trembling of the earth and what's happening in the world, to protect our eyes and our children's eyes from seeing these images, and that instead to be a powerful creator and a powerful intender for all those beings who are transcending, who are transitioning in these events, that we provide, pure love, pure consciousness through our thought formations, that we don't give energy, attention, awareness to darkness and to negativity, but instead we celebrate light, and we see these beings transitioning freely, openly. This is, in my opinion, this is the greatest gift we can give. And to really clean ourselves out, to start with ourselves and our communities, and raising the vibration of the planet, it begins with you. And that, it really starts on these shows. You're developing it, we're getting there. That's the best that we cannot save the planet from doing what it's going to do. but we can do our part. And I think we all know now it begins with the individual, and we can do that through our beautiful intention, our beautiful, beautiful energy that we send to these beings as they transition. And if you happen to see some sort of unexpected event, I've had some people work with trauma as well, coming to Othello, hey, I saw this traumatic event, and it came before my eyes, and now I can't get it out of my head. And if you happen to be in that moment, again, become very present. See if you can see what's happening without the mind going and interpreting it. See if you can come into that oneness, the consciousness, and a breath in that moment of impact, or in that moment. That is pure love, and that is, I think, the greatest gift that we can give to ourselves and to others in these moments. So that let's not underestimate that. That's quite powerful in its own right. Yes.
We're going to see horrific things. We're going to hear of horrific things. To those that impose horrific things, wish them a conscience and a heart. Because once they step into heart, they know what they're doing is wrong. When we see horrific things of people passing, ascending, crossing over, let us give them the energy they need to cross over peacefully, no matter how horrific their transcendence is on this side. Let them step into that loving peace of tranquility on the other side. And to understand that, death is not the final frontier. It is purely a transcendence back into that pure divine energy, and from there our journey will be decided whether we come back or whether we ascend or whether we become one of those angel entities that help someone else. It all depends on what we've achieved in each of our lifetimes. So let us, ascend in our own lifetime into that beautiful divine energy, so that we can be of purpose to humanity now and not wait until we have ascended and crossed over.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. This is all in our evolution anyway. Yeah. We're evolving anyway. So why not do it with some flair and with your strong foothold in what is true. When the fear and things come up, that's the shadow, and that's the stuff that's the material really that we need to cleanse from the collective consciousness. And we're working at this every day. We're releasing every day. And if you're listening to this show, all the shows that we've done, and of course all the other speakers and Sarah and all of these beautiful portals for healing that are opening up, we are ascending. Yeah. So this is
happening. It's happening. Yes. And so, I'm going to let everybody know what our next chapter is, because, I enjoy interviewing you so much, and every time it's a beautiful beacon of light that goes out. And, in that opening up to the awareness, as we know, and if people follow the station, they know that I'm about to transcend into a new energy myself. Ooh. Of purpose, of which you are a part of. And so what you're going to be expecting from us in the future is that we are going to be doing shows on family unities ascending together into this beautiful divine energy. I'm not talking about crossing over. I'm talking about ascending in life, transitioning into divine energy. And the ultimate game is, Christina does these wonderful retreats for people in which to discover that beautiful energy along with Othello, and bringing families to those retreats, so that it's not one person going back trying to convince the other. It's the whole family unity going through it at the same time, and then the beautiful ripple effect that they have through this experience that they bring it back to their community. And Self-Discovery Community is going to be raising funds for these various organizations that will help pay for families that can't afford to go to these particular services. So stay tuned, because you are going to see this wonderful thing happening in the near future. And it's all about as much energy that we can release within people, for them to ascend into their beautiful light in the here and now, the more that we're going to have that beautiful ripple effect of love that's going to go around the world and heal this planet. So it's part of that equation, because by getting the whole unity, it really builds their own community, doesn't it?
Oh, truly, truly. And what a great service. I'm so honored. I say this a lot. I'm so honored to be of service in this way. Our retreats are already, dynamite, jam-packed with techniques. The way that we set retreat up, it's actually very here and now. It's very fluid. And I do work with quite a few individuals who have families, and they ask the question, well, this is great for me, but how do I bring this to my family and to the walls that are in our family, the home, the heartbeat of the home? And then how do I then go out and share this in my work community with my associates? How do my children go to school, and then blend this into their education, learning environment? And this is answering that call. Yeah. This presents an opportunity for families to come together, to rise up together, and that we have these beautiful indigo children and crystal children who need the learning, who are the teachers, but they also need the learning, and we take the lessons. We work with the adults as well, that we're all cleansing, purifying, and we're raising our collective vibration together as a family. And boy, that is a powerful, unified family, the one that goes to the ascension through that process together.
Right. And it's learning to manage their energies in a beautiful harmonic cohesiveness that allows everyone's light to shine, but in harmony of everyone else. So it's, the techniques that they learn from this is not only to trust their own ascension in life, but to trust the energies of each other, and how to be their own orchestra. And create their own harmony that then resonates out with everyone else. So it's a lovely direction, which I'm very proud to be a part of, and I look forward to that next chapter. And I think our next show is going to be a round table with Michael, who is the energy manager, which I think would be a very interesting conversation between the two of you of how do we actually manage those energies so they don't crash the internet or they don't conflict with someone else.
That's right.
It's how to ride the wave and not make it a tsunami.
Precise. I love that analogy, particularly since we're in the Yucatan right now, and all these currents, right, and all the different storms on the seas. And as you mentioned, learning about energy management, that is about learning to play your instrument in the orchestra without and really, it's learning to play collectively, but without disturbing or disrupting other players, and also disturbing yourself. So, succinctness. Managing yourself, managing with the others, and then feeling great all the while. So I really look forward with great anticipation to this next chapter and our roundtable with Michael. And these skills, they're real life skills. They're things that we do not learn in school as we grow up. And now we are ascending as a planet. So we have these opportunities for retreat for families to learn them, to learn energy management. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of this. So thank you once again, Sarah. It's been just awesome fun and very grounding and centering. I encourage everyone to drink heapfuls of water after listening to something like this, and then putting yourself in the frequency of this is important to cleanse and to really self-care and to self-love, and be out in the natural world today. Maybe go outside and touch a plant, touch a child, have some energy exchange with your pets, and be connected in that way, so that you can kind of integrate and just gently, tenderly integrate these concepts, these energy levels here today that we've shared, because it's a topic, transition being a topic that is precious, and it deserves your tender, loving kindness towards yourself and towards others.
Yep. Exactly. So go out and let the sun kiss your brow, or if it's raining, let it water you.
Yes.
And the whole thing about life is being connected to everything around you, everything within you, knowing to put up your boundaries as to not let any of the friction or the negatives in, but to ride that wave in a harmonic way that you can turn your volume up without drowning people out, and it's very, very important. So that's going to be a very important topic, as with the families that we're going to be helping down on the road. So in the meantime, my love, how do people get hold of you? What have you got on offer right now?
Oh, thank you so much for that. And yes, as always, Athela is an open, a flinging open, really, door. So and it's a door. It's
no
a
door,
that
no door, just an open passage.
Yes, just flinging it open, and really so that you can get the full benefit is to come to athela.org. That's ATHELLA.org, and use it to connect to yourself. And that's the best way, that's the best invitation I give to people, is use it as a permission slip to feel great, and use it as a permission slip to come back to you, and to connect to the guides that you have around you, of course. So you'll find us at athela.org. We offer retreats year-round. Right now we are beginning our world tour, and we are in the Yucatan Peninsula. So beach and sun and a beautiful, beautiful beach home, which is a waterfront home, awaits you and your family members for private retreat with myself and Athela, where we dive into so many things, too many things to list here, but really it's a meditation in its own right, and a way for you to learn everything that we've talked about here today, and then some, these core teachings about learning how to ascend and how to be the upgraded human, which you are. We're all ascending anyways, so that's an offering. And also you can meet Athela anytime for a private session. I do Skype sessions, I do public events, and those public sessions happen all over the United States and in Mexico currently, because that's where we're at. So I invite anyone, if you feel called, to explore all of this and then some. She has free videos, meditations, books. There's free ebooks on there that you can download, and to connect with yourself, really, and to feel that oneness, and begin with the meditation. That's really primary, is every day a meditation for yourself. And I'm very blessed. I have to say that the life that I lived prior to meeting Athela and the life that I live now are worlds away. And I have to owe it up to, I can't take credit for it, I have to owe it up to this beautiful angel who has guided me and who guides our organization. So athela.org, and you are all welcome. I can't wait to meet you all.
Well, you stepped into your meaningful purpose, and you're living it truly because you embraced yourself from the inside out in order to connect with the divine energy. Thank you for taking that journey and opening up, because it just shows us that we all can. And, when we learn how to manage it, and we learn how to listen to it, we are never alone, and we are very much part of the solution. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of ascending in life. Don't be afraid in ascending after life. It is all beautiful divine energy. The only fear that you should have is if never ever waking up and ascending into any form of energy. Living in fear itself is crippling. The moment you decide to change that dialogue and set yourself free as energy is, the more you're going to actually understand how beautiful that divine energy is and the purpose of your own life. So thank you so much, Christina and Athela, for being with us here again today.
Thank you. I'm bowing to you, and I know Athela is also giving you a big wink, and I think a big hug to everyone. And Sarah, congratulations to you. I'll just say your personal growth and your story and where you are headed, and all of these just divinely inspired and very, very firmly rooted in source, these decisions that you made, I think are helping so many. I know that they are. So I'm very proud and very honored to be on your team and to be growing with you. So thank you for having us once again.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I opened up my channel and they gave me the direction. And so, hold on, folks, because you have no idea what's coming.
Yes, I can see a butterfly wings spreading.
Yeah, expanding, absolutely. So thank you, Christina and Othello, and to all of you. I know this has been a heavy topic today, but take it in from the soul, the heart, and the spirit. Don't get caught up with it in the head, and take a breath with it. Take a few breaths with it, because when you do, you will actually understand it's nothing to be afraid of. And when you don't live in fear, you live in life. So until next time, folks, bye for now.